Charles. Let's speak to Dr. Tony Agbons of Anglia Ruskin University, who joins us from the British capital, speaking via Zoom. Good morning to you, Dr. Agbons. Compliments of the season.
Good morning, Ladi. Compliment of the season. Happy Boxing Day to you.
Same here. How did King Charles' speech go down, do you think? Particularly the emphasis on those who are in need and those who are struggling with the aftermath of the war in Ukraine and high energy bills and the situation generally with all the strikes.
Thank you. The speech by the king yesterday, traditional Christmas speech, I think he really touched on the main issues affecting citizens of the United Kingdom at this time, especially the high cost of living. It is really biting. People are really finding it difficult to heat up their homes, get electricity going. I tell you, there are a lot of people here now who are, going to warm hubs, designated places run by NGOs and charities just to keep warm. It is that bad. So his speech yesterday really focusing on that aspect, that affects the citizens of the United Kingdom was very well received.
Let's go to those things, actually. And I know that when I spoke to you last, it was a grim situation, and that's the way you described it. But several days down the line now, I know that the border force, just to take one example, the border force actually, in fact, did take on the strike, resulting in huge chaos at the exit points out and into Britain. And then I don't know what the update is with the nurses and ambulance drivers and so on. So could you bring us up to speed on this Boxing Day? What's the situation like?
Oh, I wish you didn't even ask me this question, because as I speak to you, the ROMT Union, a huge umbrella trade union comprising of rail workers, maritime workers, transport workers, they are on strike today, Boxing Day. Can you imagine that in the United Kingdom? They are going on strike. And today, in this country, Boxing Day is a huge day for business to boom. People go out after the celebration of yesterday, Christmas Day, to make purchases because of, the huge discount that, shops and retail outlets, they will be offering. But as I speak to you today, the ROMT Union, they are on strike. Boxing Day 26. It's alarming. In fact, most of us, as I yesterday, were like, we can't believe this. So, and it is predicted that there's going to be huge vehicular traffic today, because what people have to do now is to get on their cars. So it is really appalling. And people are even saying that the government has failed to deal with this issue decisively. And even yesterday, some former Tory leaders were saying that I think the present government is out of touch with reality, because they seem not to be doing anything. And you mentioned the nurses. Yes, the nurses strike did actually go on. After 106 years, nurses went on strike in the UK in the winter season, the time where there's always pressure on the NHS. The border patrol you mentioned, they went on strike and there was chaos in the airport. Even though the military was called in, it's not their responsibility. So all that went on. Postal workers also went on strike last week. And for me, this is just a very bleak, and like you described it, grim celebrations that we will not forget in a long time here in the United Kingdom. It is really appalling.
Let's come to what some are saying is part of the situation. Earlier on in the program, we reported that in terms of what is happening in Ukraine itself, the president there said, look, things are dark and difficult, and that they're likely to remain so for the balance of the days of 2022. President Putin, on the other hand, has been asking for Russian armaments industry to up its game, because they're going to need armaments because he intends to prosecute this to a grand finale. So at the end of the day, my guest before you had said, look, neither side can afford to be seen to lose now. It's too late. So some kind of middle ground where both can walk away feeling like they won must be found. The question is, how do we get to that? But more importantly, given the background you've just given us, how long will this state of affairs continue? For example, in the UK, how much can the people bear? How much more can they bear of all of this?
Yeah, thank you, Ladi. In fact, I was listening to your other guest, Mr. Stephen Hayes, and in fact, what you just said now, when you mentioned it, I was grinning here, and I totally understand what the gentleman was saying. A war that has gone on for 10 months now, precisely just about 10 months. No side now, can leave this war in disgrace. To be honest, there is really no end in sight. But the only glimmer of hope I have is the pontiff, the Pope, really making the Russia-Ukraine crisis as the center point of his address yesterday from the Vatican. So that has given me hope that probably a neutral, respected, spiritual father like the Pope will be able to bring this war, bring everybody to the negotiating table. But going to your question directly, if this Russia-Ukraine crisis, if it's not brought to an end, countries like the UK, what we are seeing now is just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be more suffering. Look, Ladi, let me just give you some statistics. Between 2021, December 2021, and now, December 2022, the cost of domestic gas in the UK has risen by 129%. And the cost of electricity has risen by 69%. And as I speak to you, the average household in the UK, our energy bills is £2,500, which is about $3,000. I know a lot of Nigerians will understand that because we speak more in the dollar denomination. So you can see the increase. And as I speak to you, even though the government have capped the energy bills at $2,500, that is still a huge amount of money for a lot of UK citizens. Many are on medium income. Many are on pension, received. Many are on benefits. So you can see that the £450 energy support package that the government has given is not enough. It's not enough. It's like throwing a stone into the Atlantic. So I agree with you 100% that if this crisis in Ukraine, if it's not brought to an end, there is huge economic consequences ahead for countries like the UK and other European nations. So what everybody needs to be doing now, that in the spirit of the new year, in the spirit of let bygone be bygone, let the old go by, I think everybody needs to come to the table. I was, playing a tape yesterday of the Russian president Putin speaking and saying that Russia, they are willing to negotiate, although he added some difficult caveats, saying that the negotiation is not going to come from them. But for me, that is a sign that probably they can negotiate. But the other grandstanding that Putin is doing, with him promising to give more financial support to his military and all that, I see that as just men show off. I think it is time for these warring parties to come to the negotiating table.
We sincerely hope that they will, and it's on that note that we anchor this discussion. Thank you so much, Dr. Agbons, for your time, and one wishes you the very best, even as you navigate through this difficult period there in the United Kingdom. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Ladi. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too.